Good morning. I am heavily cold medicated this morning and had a pretty rough night. Hang on. It's moving day at work. There's been some consolidation and reorganization in the department. And so some of the people on the third floor are moving to the second floor, and some of the people on the second floor are moving to the third floor. And what was supposed to be just grab your papers and move to another office has turned into, as you would expect, an actual production number, because that's the way these things work. And so it's rather unplanned. They picked a day to move when my network specialist is out for a medical thing in the morning, when they'll be doing the actual moving and rehooking up. And it would be borderline if I was going in today if it weren't move day. We'll see how the medicine holds up. We'll see how I hold up towards the afternoon. But I'm sure this is going to be fun. Yesterday was a bad day. I think I mentioned Friday morning I was on my way into work and I was not feeling well. I've come down with the same thing. Something similar, anyway. Hopefully it's the same thing. I'd hate to think there's 3 different sicknesses running around the house right now. Chuan is still unable to talk. She had to go to the doctor Thursday. They prescribed some medicine. There's been no noticeable improvement since then. Today, still no voice, which is obviously a distinct liability if you're a teacher. But she's feeling better. Friday I made it through. I got through all but the last half hour of the day, and then I just had to leave. There was no more medicine in my system, and I couldn't take any more. And I'd done everything that was urgent, and I had to leave. And which is a lot better than I expected. During the night, I had the bizarrest dream. I dreamed that I could see words in my throat, so like down in here. And I don't know why I would be looking down there, but that's what it's like printed words down in here. And they were uncomfortable. And what I could do is I could visualize in my mind the same word, and almost like a puzzle. I could try to take the word and layer it down on top of the other word, and when I would do that, it would soothe up. And I didn't have a fever, but it was a bizarre dream. And when I woke up, I had no voice yesterday. And you can hear mine's not good today, but I mean, yesterday I could just croak out a few words. It's not like Chuan just get out of like this. There's nothing there. I could do a little better, but not much. And I think the worst of it was yesterday afternoon, but then I slept fitfully but better. I was awake every 2 hours all night long. But when I woke up this morning, I had a voice, and I'm not currently on any medication, which is good. And I'm doing okay. Nose, bit of coughing. Oh, the muscles in my rib cage are killing me from the deep, nasty coughs. But snot locker's full of snot, but better. So I I'm pleased-ish. I'm not pleased that I've got it in the first place, but I'm... See, I'm just going to leave that one in. But it's... normally I'd cut those out, but that's just to demonstrate a point. So I'm going to ramble on about one thing, and then I'll leave it be. I have probably 2 or 3 things I wanted to talk about, but there's one I wanted to start off with. I have maybe or maybe not mentioned this. It seems likely that I probably have, because it's the sort of thing I bang on about every once in a while. I am, although you would not tell it from my greasy blonde hair and pale, pasty white skin, I am a tribal member of the Citizens Potawatomi Nation, which is a federally recognized Indian nation within the United States. And just before we get anywhere, government documents still refer to them as Indians. So it's the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and the word Indian is used. So I'm using it with precision. I tend to use Native American when it's me, but I don't say the Bureau of Native American Affairs, because it is the Bureau of Indian Affairs. The BIA card is what you've got if you are a member of a recognized Indian tribe in this country, which I am, and the kids are. And the rules for being a member of a tribe are Byzantine at best, and they vary from tribe to tribe, because the federal government allows the tribes to decide what criteria they use for tribal enrollment. And most tribes use what's called a blood quantum level, which is basically racism in action. The belief that there's actually some difference between Native American blood and everyone else's blood. But we know now that's not true. 100 years ago, people believed it, but it simply isn't true. There's nothing to that. There are some perhaps genetic traits that you pass on, but that really doesn't work like you're now 50%, and then your kids are 25%, and then your kids below them are 12.5%. There isn't any really basis in the science there. We're all just people who have different physical genetic traits. In any case, the lottery of genetics doesn't work like you would think. My grandmother, twins, well, my grandmother, half twins, she got, they're not identical twins, but in the lottery between her father, the Irishman, and her mother, the Native American, she came out with the red hair and the white skin, and her sister came out with darker coloration. And because their mother died, they were put in an Indian school, which are ghastly places, and I'm sure I've talked about those, to make good Christians out of them and crush any native culture that may have been there as part of the if we can't kill them all genocide approach of the federal government from those days. Then there's the we'll crush every bit of their culture if we can't actually kill them attitude. And I can rant on about that at another time. Nonetheless, I'm actually more Sioux than I am Potawatomi, but the Potawatomis use a different mechanism, and therefore I and the kids and their kids are fully eligible to be tribal members, and therefore we get any federal benefits that are due to Native Americans, and we get any tribal benefits, which includes things like death benefits and scholarships and things like that. So it's to our advantage to maintain that. And, all right, it's a bit of my heritage. We are Native Americans. We have those, if we don't practice them, because a lot of traditions like religion are just silly nonsense anyway, but we have that awareness, which is, does not come from your blood level. That comes from your mind. Anyway, what I'm going to rant on about is that because the kids are enrolled in these programs, and, none of this happened when I was a kid, but They get stuff at school. They get flyers from the essentially federal programs run by the BIA. They get stuff. They get free stuff. And, but all the flyers are like, do you need help with your addition and subtraction? And they'll send this to the 8th graders. And, special tutoring for addition and subtraction for 8th grade Native Americans is available. And you think, how could they be in the 8th grade if they can't do addition and subtraction? And it irritates me that there is this presumption that these kids are in some way deficient. And yes, socioeconomic situations can lead to that, but nonetheless, they're in 8th grade, so they shouldn't be in 8th grade if they aren't up to that point. They should have been held back and retained. Anyway, that's another story. The stuff we get a tub of supplies every year. A big tub, big Rubbermaid tub full of stuff. And it's got notebooks and paper and stuff, but it's also got, and it's based on your grade. And Michelle last year in her 7th grade box got chapter books. Now those are the books you give to 1st and 2nd graders, Magic School Bus and stuff like that, and flashcards for single digit addition and subtraction, and just staggeringly stuff that our kids were using pre-kindergarten, but even a non-bright should be insulted by this stuff. And the fact that they're giving this out and they're spending federal tax money on it irritates the hell out of me. Yes, if those kids need it, but doggone it, sure, we could use the notebooks and the pencils and stuff like that because it just saves us on the budget. But it's the assumption of the deficiency of these kids that really bothers me. It really bothers me. Is that a self-fulfilling prophecy in action? It's like if you treat them that way, as if they're not going to do well, then is it that they do not do well? I do not know. But anyway, this came in. I've complained. I've complained ages and ages that everything we ever get about them is hey, your kid's probably stupid. Maybe we should do this. When Michelle is not, nor is James, but I'm specifically referring to Michelle here because James no longer goes to a public school. Obviously, Michelle is not. And she is top of her school, if not the top, of all students, of all grades, in the best school in the school district, academically. So, she is probably one of the 2 or 3 top students in the entire district, bar none, in 8th grade. So we get this thing. The Alhambra School District Indian Education Parent Committee is pleased to announce that your daughter, Michelle, has been chosen to receive a certificate of recognition for academic achievement. During the 2015-2016 school year, Michelle earned one of the highest academic performances of all 8th grade Native American girls in the Alhambra School District. And so they're going to give her an award. Oddly enough, Michelle got that and she was upset by it. Because she was upset that it was like, so it's just 8th grade, just girls, just Native Americans. When, she knows she's far and above that. I can't say I blame her. It is worded kind of condescendingly. I don't think it's intended that way, and I didn't take it that way. I thought, well, at least finally we got something from them that says at least they're paying attention to the students who aren't awful. But Michelle has been receiving these things, tutoring for your alphabet and stuff since forever, and so she was kind of like, unfortunately, this also happens to coincide with a school concert, so she won't be able to go receive the certificate, and I'm not sure that she I'm not sure that I would take her. And I will tell you why. Because this Michelle doesn't look any less white than I do, and she actually is less white than I am. But what I didn't mention is that when my grandmother was in that Indian school, like I said, she had red hair, white skin. She used to have, well, I don't know if she had to, but she used to put mud in her hair and smear dirt and mud on her face and her arms and her legs to make herself darker, because the kids at that school were resentful, did not like it, did not like her because she was white. I have learned to not generally mention that sort of thing, because for the same reason, you get resentment. You get resentment from people who are more classically appearing to be Native Americans when they find out, because they think it's some sort of, as many of the tribes would never ever allow me in because of the quantity of blood in my system. They don't take kindly to it. And I don't know, having Michelle walk up on the stage as being the top Native American girl, as white as she is, if that wouldn't actually cause, I mean, I wouldn't expect any violence, anything silly like that, but I don't know that that wouldn't do some harm. Even if it's to the other kids feeling like they got cheated. So, I guess it's a good thing it happened during her concert. She said she wouldn't go anyway. It's because she's a little incensed. Anyway, that was way too long. I'll probably never publish this one. Or maybe I'll cut it down. Anyhow. In case I don't do any more. Hold on. Sorry, dog. Hope the dog doesn't get my cold. Like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you next time.